We summarise the first emerald tablet for you. They were written by a guy named Thoth the Atlantean. Many people thought he was a god, but that's not actually the case. In the tablets, he doesn't even claim to be one either. In the tablet, he refers to himself as king, master of mysteries, keeper of records, and magician. And this is where he began his first incarnation, not as a human, but one of the mighty ones of Atlantis. The mighty ones were advanced consciousness. They could transcend life through something called the halls of Amenti. This allowed them to relive over and over again. The tablet states that he is incarnated 1,000 times, ascending from the darkness into the light, but also claims that he is incarnated 1,000 times, descending into darkness to get into the light as well. He then states that he will put his soul to rest so that the land of Chem, which is now modern day Egypt, will be able to rise, and then one day he will come back. And when he does come back, the teachings that he left behind for man, he will be holding us accountable to them. We were supposed to guard and practice his teachings, being sure to follow them so that man could rise to a higher state of consciousness. He stated that his soul exists in the infinity of consciousness, outside of time and space, and that will one day return in order to hold us accountable for all of these things, judging and rewarding accordingly. At this point, the wisdom of the earth was in its infancy. However, there was something known as the children of light. These were the people that understood that consciousness was divine and that everything was one. They resided inside a temple that Thoth's father used to actually oversee. Basically, Thoth the Atlantean and his race were the protectors of the children of light, ultimately delivering messages between the children of light and the races of men. The children of light told men how to live in order to be living prosperously and abundantly in divinity with nature. And each race of men had a king, and these kings were delivered messages by the children of light through people like Thoth the Atlantean. The tablet then states he was a massive nerd and he actually loved to acquire knowledge, until one day the dweller of the temple actually requested his presence because he was attaining so much knowledge. And even he found it surprising. He was kind of scared too, because no one was allowed to look upon the children of light, and if they did, they usually died. This is because people couldn't comprehend the level of supreme consciousness. He was then taught by the supreme consciousness in order to learn how to live, and ultimately became a form of supreme consciousness himself. And what we have to realize is that these supreme consciousness aren't separate. They are the same. We are all one. It's the divine law of oneness. And he basically acquired so much wisdom that he became free of the karmic cycle, and ultimately he had the option to either die or reincarnate at will. This is amazing to hear. He had this obsession with searching for the truth. Then basically he just kept watching man die constantly. And as a result of this, he started to see men fall in consciousness. And this is when Atlantis fell. That's when the dweller from the temple came out and just unleashed his wrath on everybody. And supposedly this is why Atlantis was drowned altogether, because men were arseholes. And Supreme Consciousness told him to gather the rest of the survivors, go somewhere where there were barbarians, and ultimately start the cycle all over again. This is when he grabbed the survivors and went to a land of Chem, which is now modern day Egypt. And at this time, the people of Egypt were barbarians. They were living in caves and stuff. He basically taught them wisdom, arts, nurturing, farming, all of that kind of stuff, and ultimately made them powerful. This led to the flourishment of the Egyptian civilization. And at this point, he was erecting stuff like the Great Pyramid of Giza and other mad crazy shit so that people could actually tap into space-time. What the fuck is going on? Thousands of years ago. And within these pyramids, he left secrets. People think they were actually tombs. He left the keys to the universe. It says it in the tablet. There in the apex set I the crystal, sending the ray into time-space, drawing the force from out of the ether, concentrating upon the gateway to Amenti. Amenti is essentially the underworld, but according to the research that I've done, it's essentially where all the divine consciousness resides. And then he basically said if you had spiritually grown through stuff like fasting, you were allowed into the chamber so that you could learn the secrets. Then he says, built I the great pyramid patterned after the pyramid of earth force, burning eternally so that it too might remain through the ages. In it I built my knowledge of magic science. Magic is fucking real. And then he reincarnated as Hermes Trismegistus, essentially Hermes Trispawn. And this is where all the esoteric wisdom comes from, and the 12 laws of the universe. They're essentially Thoth the Atlantean. Thoth claims to be the original messenger of the god from approximately 36,000 years ago. He is one of the messengers from the supreme consciousness known as the Dweller. And then after he left all of this knowledge, he just went, I'm going to bed. I'll see you in a bit. And then he went down to rest, ultimately to come back again when mankind has absolutely ruined itself again. And we seem to be getting there right now. And that basically concludes the first emerald tablet. If you want me to do the second one, comment, because I'll be breaking it down. It's actually quite complex, so it takes me time to do it, but I'll be hopping on live if you have any questions. Let's discuss.